sport has the power to change the world.
Sean Fitzpatrick, Morne Duplessis Cafu, Roger Federer, Gary Player, Nadia Comaneci, Edwin Moses, Tanny Gray-Thompson, Monica Seles. And so the list of luminaries continues. These iconic sporting names all synonymous with the Laureus Sport for Good Foundation. But what are those perhaps who unfortunately don't come from the same sporting gene pool, but who are the daily drivers behind the organization's presence in 40 countries around the world and who are actively involved in changing lives through sport in the nearly 200 projects that Laureus supports? They have arguably just as great a sporting pedigree as those greats aligned with the foundation. And so in this edition of The Power of Sport, we sit down with a man integral to the actions of today and whose vision will drive Laureus into the future, recently appointed CEO Jonathan Hill. My name's John Smythe and welcome to the latest edition of The Power of Sport. You can find us on iTunes and at Omni Radio, and of course we're on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. So then, this episode will take you into the beating heart of the Laureus Sport for Good Foundation. In October 2017, it was announced that one of sport's leading commercial figures, Jonathan Hill, would be slotting into the role of CEO of the organization. It was a significant coup for Laureus and allowed for Guy Sannon, who drove their organization with such aplomb, but who had been seconded from Richemont, to return to his role while still continue as director of the joint venture board. For Jonathan Hill, he had to literally hit the ground running, with the Sports Awards in Monaco among the first of the big events to navigate. And we caught up with him after a very busy 6 months or so. I started off by asking him what it was like to run the gauntlet of a Laureus World Sports Awards in Monaco for the very first time.
Well, obviously the 2018 awards in February in Monaco were my first experience actually of a Laureus Awards, and I have to say it was a great honour to be involved. Not only did we have the largest number of Laureus Academy members that have ever attended an awards, we had many of our key influencers there who are helping us transmit the message of sport for good. We worked closely with our partners, so we had a run on the front in Monaco, a bike ride which took us into the snow-capped mountains of Italy, and a whole range of other sport for good initiatives. From a commercial perspective, we were also very proud to announce a new global partner in the financial banking group MUFG, previously known as Mitsubishi Tokyo Bank, who happens to be the 6th largest bank in the world, and become our 3rd global partner alongside Mercedes-Benz and Richemont's IWC. And it was a very proud moment for us when Randall Chavez, their CEO, and his team arrived in Monaco for the award. So that was great fun. Obviously, from an awards perspective, it was super special because Roger picked up both his 5th and then his 6th Laureus Awards, making him, in effect, the one person who's won the most awards ever. And I think everyone was touched by the emotion of his acceptance speech, in which he talked about his own desire to help in relation to his foundation and his philanthropic work. But also, he absolutely made the point that it was an honour for him to collect the award from our Academy members. And I think that's really important for everyone to remember the value of the Academy that we have here at Laureus. So that was great fun to celebrate sporting achievement, which is what the awards is all about, but it was also a great reminder of the transformational work that's being done on a daily basis by Laureus Sport for Good across the world.
Well, Laureus South Africa has had such a busy year. We've had an exchange to the Hong Kong Sevens. There's been a boxing trip to Rio de Janeiro, of all places, Mandela Day celebrations, and we've had new ambassadors appointed. But that's just the work we are exposed to locally. Is there a message for those doing great work under the banner of Sport for Good?
I have to say I'm continually impressed by the enthusiasm and dedication of all the people who support the Laureus movement around the world, but in particular those people who run our national foundations, including of course the National Foundation in South Africa, who have really been with us right from the very start and whose work is transformational within the market of South Africa itself. But that is mirrored across the globe in some of our other key markets, including the UK, the US, Argentina, to name but a few. Also, of course, I love the fact that our Academy members and our ambassadors, very, very special people within the history of the world of sport, give of their time for no compensation, if you like, because they genuinely want to put something back into a sporting world that has been so good for them, and we should never forget their contribution, because it's a constant reminder of everything that's good about sport. On a personal basis, I've been lucky enough to go to a number of Laureus programmes, but I think in my first 9 months or so, the most memorable was my trip to Tel Aviv and then to Jerusalem, where I met some quite inspirational girls from both the Jewish and the Palestinian side of the organisation who played basketball together in what was basically the only place in Jerusalem where girls from both sides of the religious divide, if you like, were allowed to come together. And it was truly, truly inspirational. I think it was one of our new ambassadors, Michael Jameson, who said recently at a visit to one of our projects here in London, the Carnes community, which is based around a boxing project for young offenders and young people in South London. He said to me, and it really struck a chord, I think he said, I genuinely feel far more inspired by the work that this programme is doing than I have meeting whoever I've been lucky enough to meet at Olympic Games, because this is the kind of project that will create an impact and create a positive change. So that's from someone who has been an Olympic gold medalist, and it's incredibly powerful and rewarding to hear him say that.
So then, looking ahead, what is the medium-term vision for the Laureus Foundation?
Well, the vision of Laureus Sport for Good doesn't change in the sense that we're using, and this is Mandela's words, the power of sport to look to end violence, discrimination and disadvantage, and so to show that sport can genuinely change the world. We work towards our 6 key focus areas that are aligned to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and they are health, education, employability, women and girls, peaceful society and inclusive society. 6 areas that I absolutely believe Nelson Mandela would have been very excited for us to have supported. For me, the reason why I'm here and the reason why my team in London are here is really to generate as much cash as we possibly can so that we can give as much money as we can to our programmes to fund them on behalf of young people around the platform of sport, to make both them better people, but to make the world a better place once that money has been received. From a commercial perspective, one of our commercial objectives, and therefore one of our hotspots, is very much to develop our digital output. And that sounds like an obvious thing to do in a world which is now so digitally focused, but we're in a very competitive space alongside lots of other both charitable foundations, but also just the general sports marketing world, where rights holders around the world, and I see ourselves as a sports rights holder, looking for partners both in the media space and in the sponsorship space. And obviously we're looking for the right type of partner, the right type of media partner, the right type of digital partner to help us build the Laureus brand. And we can only do that if we have the right quality of digital content connected to the right type of digital audience, where we have permission and the ability to speak directly to that audience, and therefore our partners can talk to them too. So we're working very hard on that at the moment. We'd also like to build out both our sport-specific strategies, in other words, get much closer to all of the main global sports, but also to the secondary and tertiary sports in the world, because we have permission to engage with all sports around the world, which is part of our absolute uniqueness. We're also looking to make Laureus a truly and genuinely global movement, and we know that we have work to do within some of the key markets such as the US and China. We have some very strong existing relationships there, and we want to build those out, as well as building out the more traditional, if you like, development markets such as Brazil and India, where through our cricketing legends, cricketing ambassadors and academy members, we have really strong cut through at the moment. So really exciting opportunity for us to take the Laureus message to more people. To date, most of our fundraising efforts have been corporate or have been focused on NGOs and government bodies, but we'd like to build out our digital community to the degree that we feel comfortable asking our supporters more directly if they would be prepared to support Laureus programmes around the world. To do that, we're very conscious of the fact that we need to build out our academy and our ambassador programme and make sure that the guys that we engage and the new people that we bring in are not only the type of sporting legends that everyone has come to expect from the Laureus movement, but also are those type of people who will naturally engage with the programs, but also engage with us to build out that digital footprint.
For those in the sports marketing industry, vouch for Jonathan's impressive background. But as for the rest of us, this is apparently what we need to know about him.
My world was predominantly football-based, so I've worked on a couple of occasions now for the English Football Association, looking after the commercial, predominantly working with the England national team and with the world-famous FA Cup and with the even more famous Wembley Stadium. And all of that was a great fun to work with players as world-renowned as Beckham and Michael Owen and Wayne Rooney, but also to help with the FA's own purpose. I've also had the honour of working with one of the world's biggest sports marketing agencies, IMG, where I learnt a great deal from Mark McCormack and what he developed there, which was very unique in itself. I guess, hopefully, that I'm a pretty straightforward and honest person who is genuinely excited by the opportunity to build the Laureus movement. And for me, being able to use my experience and my contacts gained over a 20-plus year career within the sports marketing world can really help to give an organisational direction for Laureus and for the people who work within the Laureus team, the brilliant people who work within the Laureus teams, a very clear vision of what it is that we would like to achieve. And that's what I would like my epitaph to say to a degree. On a personal basis, perhaps of the moment is one little nugget of information which has been very much in the news recently, in that when I was at the FA the first time I was there, I worked on Euro 96 and I was given a list of 10 slogans that we could use for the tournament, and I was lucky enough to be able to choose from the list of 10, and I chose one, and that slogan was "Football Comes Home," and that has obviously become something of a refrain, not just for English football but also for world football. And I hope one day that maybe football still will come home to England, but I live in hope as much as in expectation.
And finally, does our CEO have a guilty sporting pleasure? You know, we all do.
I would say I can articulate that in just 2 words, and those 2 words are, so help me God, Leeds United. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, that's it then from the CEO's desk, Jonathan Hill. I trust that you enjoyed hearing from the man himself, and no doubt we'll be hearing more in the months to come. Here's hoping that Leeds United find some semblance of their former glory days. I'm sure Ambassador Lucas Hadebe would agree wholeheartedly. South Africa has been abuzz with the centenary of the late President Nelson Mandela. Of course, I couldn't let Jonathan go without a hat tip to Madiba.
Well, obviously, being our founding patron, Nelson Mandela is, for me at least, the driving force and motivation for much of what we do around the world. And his original words from the 2000 awards in Monaco resonate not just with me, but actually with the whole of the world's sporting community, and certainly the world's sports marketing community, who have often used those brilliant and very concise and very powerful words to explain why it is that we do what we do. And so we're very much looking forward to celebrating his life and his centenary. We have a summit in Los Angeles in the USA, which is looking at everything we've done today, but also the future of the sport for development sector. And we'll have people like Chris Paul, Alison Felix, our own Academy Chairman, Sean Fitzpatrick, and your own Brian Habana there to give an insight into the transformational power of sport in their own lives and careers.
In the next Parasport podcast, I'll be sharing the excitement and some of the heartwarming stories behind Laureus South Africa's projects who gathered recently for Mandela Day at Emirates Stadium in celebration of what the great man gave to us. Thank you very much for downloading this episode. Please remember to subscribe to the series and share it with all of your friends, as we have some very exciting stories to bring you in the coming weeks. From myself, Sean Smythe, and all of us at the Parasport, cheers for now.